Welcome to Adda with Eshaan Akbar. Thank you for tuning in. Adda, if you're unfamiliar, is the Bengali word for casual chat, hanging out. It's not a direct translation, but it more or less captures the essence of what an Adda is. In Bangladesh and Bengali culture, people would call you, or maybe even after dinner, after you finish dinner, they'd say, shall we go and Adda? And that's what we're going to do today. Adda with you. You send in your voice notes at speakpipe.com/Eshaan Akbar, and I respond and react to them. It could be all manner of things. We've had advice requests, we've had observations about the state of the world, we've even had quotes from people. If you ever want to get involved, just send me through a voice note. Let's get into it today.
Okay, you need to give us all some dating advice, please. Tell us what the fuck we're meant to do. I'm 36, for example, and single. My last major relationship ended at the end of 2023. It was a 5.5-year relationship, so I can hold one down, but turns out the guy was gay. So that was a waste of 5.5 years of my life, which I'm never going to get back. But what is one supposed to do? Because I've been on these dating apps a couple of times since I broke up with my ex, and I'm not being funny. They are just, it's the wild, wild west out there. Do you know how many times a guy has arranged like a date with me, and then I'll be like maybe messaging him like an hour before, letting him know I'm going to be leaving in about an hour's time, sort of thing, and then you find you've been blocked. You've just been ghosted, and everything was going great. He was really excited to meet you and all of this, and then, on the day of the date, ghosted. Or you get a cancellation literally just as you're heading out the door. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Sorry, babe, we're going to have to rearrange. And then you rearrange, and it's like, oh, sorry, I'm really busy again. This happens constantly. It's not even like a one guy. Just seems to be a trend. What is going on? Does no one want to date right now? Is that the issue? Help, please.
You have come to the right person when it comes to matters of the heart, dating and relationships. Because let me tell you something, Anonymous. I have trodden many a path in the quest for love and companionship. And as it stands, I am at a crossroads, alone. Again. Similar to you, I was in a 6-year relationship, so I can hold one down. And I've been in a couple of long-term relationships that have since come to an end. My last relationship coming to an end was especially painful because I lost the dog that we got together. And let me tell you, I know people say children, when children are involved in a breakup, that's really, really hard. But children love you conditionally. And sorry to say to anybody who might be expecting or has a young child of their own and are swept up in the emotions of their beautiful toddler moments where they're learning about the world themselves. But by the time that little child, I was going to say gremlin, but by the time that child is able to find rhyme and reason with the world and feels any form of restriction from you, they will hate you. However, this dog, my God, I could do no wrong. And boy, do I miss Nimki. So Nimki, if you're listening to this, wherever you are, I miss you. Nimsy Kinsey Quines. What a beautiful little dog you were. Anyway, Anonymous, thank you for sending this voice note and thank you for being so candid and open about your circumstances. I've never been in a situation where the person I'm with, it then transpired that they were gay. I've been with people who are bisexual and or pansexual. They are separate things. Pansexual, if you're unfamiliar with that, is somebody who doesn't care about any kind of gender norms, or as one of my friends said, they'll date anything. Fair enough. I am anything. That happens. But the fact that you were with someone for 5.5 years and it turned out he was gay, that's, there's so many things I want to ask you about this. There must have been tells. If you're in a 5.5-year relationship, there must have been tells. Was he particularly well-dressed? Did he take longer to get ready than you did? Were there particular sexual positions that he favoured over others? Did you ever do role plays where you had to be a man? Were there particular genres of music that he liked? Was he particularly keen on Britney or Cher? There must have been tells. So for you to not know that over 5.5 years, that's on you, frankly. However, I also know that you never really know a person. I accept that. You know, there are people who, well, I say people, men who have separate families throughout the course of the relationship, which can last 20, 30 years. And if that isn't worthy of praise in some regard, I don't know what is. To be able to manage two families and one of them secretly, the logistical, emotional, and mental capacity that requires of a man is nothing short of remarkable, right? But I'm sorry to hear that that's the journey that you've had. That can be quite a difficult thing. The pretty much, I'd say, 15 to 20 seasons of Friends was predicated on this happening, where Ross ended up being in a relationship with, was it Carol? Yeah, probably Carol. And she was of course a lesbian. Now, dating. I have used dating apps in the past, but it's not my preferred method of meeting people for two reasons. One, I never get any matches. That's one thing. I don't really get matches, and I have talked about this on stage many times, and I think it's because of racism. Right? Of course it is. I've spoken about this on stage, which is that Asian men are not sexualized, and that is why on Western dating apps they struggle, because women are not used to seeing Asian men as sexual beings. And the women that do see Asian men as sexual beings, for some inexplicable reason, I don't trust them, right? I feel like if you're online and you see Asian men, you're like, oh, I'm really into that, you're either fetishizing or you're trying to reclaim the glory years of your gap year in India or whatever it is. So dating apps for me is just fraught with stress. So that's one thing. The second reason is to what you've alluded to. There's a lot of nonsense that happens on dating apps, right, where people just talk endlessly. They play a really good game. And now you can't even trust whether the person you're speaking to is actually using his words. It could be Claude. It could be Gemini. It could be ChatGPT who is telling you the words. So if there is an app out there that completely limits the amount of chat, I think that that's a valuable thing. And if there's anybody listening to this who says, actually, that's a very good idea, let's do it, please come to me. I would like to be an investor and or face of this particular dating app. I think there is one called Breeze where you don't talk much, but they pay towards the first drink and you have to meet at the bar or something like that. So one thing I'd say, just in terms of advice, if you go on a dating app and you match with someone, just say to them, look, I don't want to waste time talking at this juncture. We just need to meet in person. So tell me the time and place that you're free. We will meet, and that's that. And if they don't turn up, you have had zero emotional investment by virtue of the amount of conversation you're having with that person. Because I understand when a new person enters your ether, even the chatting for a week just opens up a door, a tiny little door into your heart. And we all ought to protect our heart. It's a very beautiful thing. You know, I've said this, love is one of those things, companionship, love especially is one of those things. I grew up reading amazing poetry about love. I listened to songs that talk about love. I grew up in a South Asian household where you watch Bollywood films, and if a bloke fancies a woman, there's 600 men dancing behind him in tandem just to let her know. There's real expressions, beautiful. Love is such an amazing thing. The one emotion that every single human being, I hope, experiences, either being loved or loving someone, whether it's unrequited, whether it's a whirlwind romance, whatever it is. Even now, as you're listening to this, you're probably thinking about the first person you truly loved, because it's not the person you're with now. We never end up with our first loves. That's just not, that's just romance. Anyway, all that said, sorry, it got quite morbid then. I was thinking about my first love. She then went on to marry a trader at Goldman Sachs. Doesn't matter, don't worry about it, I'm fine. It's all good. He was my best friend in English class, and he asked her out when I told him I was about to ask her out. Then I fell ill, and he did successfully. And he's very rich, and he's very successful. And I'm recording a podcast in my bedroom. The other thing is, in terms of you saying, do people not want to date? I don't think people do want to date, to be honest with you. And I think the intellectual part of my brain says that I think there is a correlation between the cost of living and people's willingness to date. Because so much of dating is expensive. It costs money to date, whether it's a coffee, whether it's a dinner, whether it's gifts, whatever it is. And I think people don't want to spend money frivolously. And you could say, okay, well, we can meet for a date and go for a walk. but there's also time. And as you know, time is money. Time is money. I do think that people are financially struggling. I think there is, given the fact that I'm talking about this on a podcast, there is too much information about dating and love. You can find any angle about not being in love and not being in a relationship, or angles about being in love, being in a relationship online constantly. So you're inundated with information. I think when people are trying to date, I've been on dates where people have asked me about my love languages. Now, I think that's ridiculous. You find out love languages when you're with the person. And I wonder whether 15, 20 years ago, those were the kind of conversations that were happening. I don't think they were. I sound like an old man, but back in the day, when you're going on a date, you're just enjoying the moment with each other. You're not intellectualizing the relationship. You're not intellectualizing the conversation around dating. I think that happens too much. And I think what happens is people are feeling like they have to play up to a certain academic or intellectual role of who or what they should be. They come in armed with information saying, okay, in order to pass this dating test, I have to approach it almost like a theory test. And based on these multiple choice options that I have on the date, I must do this thing in order to have a successful date. And I think we're forgetting to connect with people on a more human, honest level. So I think there's that pressure on people. There's also, I guess, the pressure of, I feel like people are getting more and more lonely, which is a very odd quandary of the modern world, right? Where we're more connected, we can speak to one another quicker. There's almost too much communication. I mean, WhatsApp, people are breaking up over the blue ticks showing or not showing, about the response rate from when you were last seen and everything else. Whereas, back in the day, you'd have to wait. You'd have to say, I'll meet you, in a week's time at this bar at 7 p.m. And so the propensity for cancellation, which is something that you've experienced, was much less. People respected one another's time. I know I'm one of those people where even with friends, if my friends say, let's meet on Thursday, if I don't hear from that friend between now and Thursday, assume we're not meeting. We might have made the plan, but we ain't meeting. So I think that there's a real sense of not respecting other people's time. And I'm sure you came to me here saying, Eshaan, look, I want some advice. And all I've done is moan about how difficult it is, okay? And I'm sorry. It's important that I get that out of my system. The one bit of advice I will give you, and by the way, I don't think you should respect my advice at all. But all that said and done, the way I've made peace with this, and I'm about to say something that is going to make you want to throw up, and if you wish to throw whatever listening device you're listening to this on out the window, or softly drive your car into a central reservation, I understand. I have made peace with loving myself. And the moment you do that, it's amazing how that energy expands into the world. I have become so much more attractive in the last 6 months when I actively chose to love myself. I don't know what pheromones or what I'm doing, but women, beautiful women, have found themselves attracted to me because I think they feel some sort of safety in not having to look after me or my emotions. I don't know how they know that, but I just think human beings know. We're animals at the end of the day. There are certain instincts that we have. So I would say to you, Anonymous, now is the time to really get to know yourself. You can't cancel on yourself. You can't send yourself endless messages of banal conversation. Go out and do 5 things by yourself that you would do on a date. Take yourself to dinner. Go to an escape room. Go to the cinema. Go for a walk. Be with yourself, and you'll find that the terms with which you want to date somebody else become much clearer, because that person has to add to whatever joy and satisfaction you feel when you're with yourself. I hope that helps. Let me know how you get on. That was lovely, wasn't it? I enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Adda with Eshaan. Please do remember to subscribe, comment, rate, or even better still, review the episode wherever you're listening to this podcast. Also, send in your voice notes at speakpipe.com/Eshaan Akbar. All of this really helps the podcast grow. Let's get back to it.
There are more Argentina fans in Bangladesh and West Bengal than there are in Argentina. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Barbon, thank you for this. For those who are unfamiliar, I am part Bangladeshi from my mother's side and part Pakistani from my father's side. And I have a real affinity to Bangladesh, and this is why the podcast is called Adda. It's a Bangladeshi word, Bengali word, and I'm very connected to my Bengali side. I love everything Bengali. Absolutely everything pretty much Bengali I love, except their love for Argentina, and that is where my Englishness comes through. Nothing made me fucking happier than seeing the dirty RGs lose when they lost to Spain. My God, it is the first time I've seen this nation come together where ethnic minorities who hate Argentina because the Argentinian, and this is not a reflection on the people, but the Argentinian government, because of the way they are so fucking racist and have basically erased black people from Argentinian existence, and also the Argentine Premier's association with a Middle Eastern country that I'm going to name Israel. I don't know why I whispered like I wasn't going to say it. But that whole thing with Israel and Palestine and how the Argentinian government are in cahoots with them. But also how the football team played. They just punched everyone. They didn't really play football. I was so glad that the world was waking up to what the RGs are all about. And then they put out that stupid bloody flag at the end of the game against England saying for the Falklands, "Oh, just piss off, you stupid bastards." So what I really loved was all the ethnic minorities in the UK hate Argentina for that reason, and the Brits hate Argentina because of the Falklands and Diego Maradona, the hand of God and all that stuff. They all came together, united in their hatred for Argentina. So when Bangladeshis love Argentina up, it really does my fucking head in. It's so annoying because a lot of those Bangladeshis don't understand that I feel like not Argentinian people, but a lot of maybe a fair few Argentinian people will not take kindly to Bangladeshis being in Argentina. But there is a story behind why this happened. It all began when Bangladesh first got colour TV in the 1980s, and the 86 World Cup was aired there, and they got to see the genius and, frankly, evilness of one Diego Maradona. English fans, I completely understand, as an England fan myself, why Maradona is a very difficult person to appreciate, but his genius as a footballer cannot be denied. And so in 86, imagine if that's your first World Cup and you get to see Diego Maradona do Diego Maradona things. Even in a single game against England, you go, who the hell is this? And what a beautiful thing for Bangladesh. This would have been 15 years after the civil war against Pakistan, to see football. I can imagine for that generation, it was a seminal moment. And then in 1990, the heartbreak of Maradona really touched the hearts and souls of Bangladeshi people. And Bangladeshi people are very passionate people. And there are videos, some of them quite embarrassing right now, of Bangladeshis fainting because Argentina lost. And so Bangladeshis, through the escapism 15 years after the war of seeing the genius of Maradona and then subsequently Messi, there is a beauty to these players, this flair that they have, and a nation that Bangladesh is that absolutely loves football. I don't think a lot of people know this. My grandfather was the chairman of Mohammedan Football Club, which is the main football club in Dhaka. There's two football clubs there, Mohammedan and Abu Hani. And my grandfather was the chairman of Mohammedan Football Club. And so it's football is a sport that is deeply loved in Bangladesh. And also as a Pakistani, it's a source of great pride for me because the footballs that are made for the World Cup and all over the world not only come from Pakistan, but they come from the very city that my dad is from, Sialkot. And the owners of the company that make those footballs, they have lived, and when I say directly opposite, I literally mean directly opposite my dad's house in Pakistan since they were babies. It goes back very many, many, many years. So my connection to football in that regard from Pakistan and Bangladesh is very deeply rooted, but Bangladesh's connection to Argentina can be explained with that. And yes, primarily because of the population, there are so many more Bangladeshi Argentina fans than I think people can comprehend. If you get a chance, go on YouTube and just search Argentina fans Bangladesh, and you will see. You'll think you're in Buenos Aires. You won't, because Buenos Aires is white, but you'd think that you were in a city in Argentina, given the amount of the fan base. What I'd love for Bangladeshis going forward is for them to move past supporting Argentina. there's quite a few Brazil fans. Quite sadly, during this World Cup that's just gone, a few people have got murdered for supporting Brazil, which is, I mean, what are we doing, guys? Bangladesh? Ki korcho tumra? Huh? Eta ki hotse? That's Bengali for, what are you guys up to? What are you doing? There's also, I guess, a bit of glory hunting going on. And let me tell you something. As a London-born and bred Manchester United fan, there's anyone that knows about glory hunting, it's not me. And I'll tell you why it's not me, right? Because I was 6 years old when I was in a garden. This is the origin story of why I support Manchester United. I was in the garden with my cousin who lived in Forest Gate, a stone's throw from the old Upton Park West Ham Stadium. We're in the garden. He's a bit older than me. We're going to play Wembley Singles, a classic game. If you're in England, you know this game. We grew up playing it. It was either Wembley Singles or Headers and Volleys. That's what you mainly played. And we're playing Wembley Singles. He said, I'm West Ham and you're Manchester United. I said, fine, I'm Manchester United. Didn't know my arse from my elbow. Didn't know what I was saying. I did it. But I'm a loyal man. That's what I am. I said I'm Manchester United. I stayed Manchester United. Sure, it coincided with a period of tremendous success. My childhood and teenage years came up trumps, right? But let me tell you, the last 12 years, have I been the butt of many a joke being a Manchester United fan. And I've supported them deeply, and there have been matches where I have cried. I've gone to see them many a time. One of the last times I went to watch Manchester United Crystal Palace at Old Trafford. We lost. It was raining heavily. The stadium was leaking. And even then, I said Manchester United has my heart. Okay? So that's my story. However, for the Bangladeshis who support Argentina and Brazil, I completely understand the level of glory hunting. There are, Bangladeshi Manchester United fans, Liverpool fans, Manchester City fans, because the Premier League is one of England's strongest exports. One thing I love about going to Bangladesh is I can watch every single Premier League game. Every single Premier League game, whenever I'm there, I can watch without having to take a subscription because there are some illegal sites which have quite an official way of showing the games. So Bangladesh loves football, and if you don't have a local football team and you're invested in the Premier League, of course you're going to pick a team that you think is quite successful. I don't think anybody, their first hope, or certainly when they first get into football, go, I'm going to choose Charlton Athletic. Let me follow their journey. All that said and done, in my older age, and because the Premier League is becoming so expensive and sometimes feels like a corporate league, Like I remember I used to play football when I was at Barclays. I set up a five-a-side football team and we played the other banks on the Canary Wharf estate. The Premier League sometimes feels a bit like that. It feels like there's all these massive companies that have football teams like, Manchester United and Manchester City, and they kind of play along. So I sometimes try and get down to watch Dagenham and Redbridge, which is now part owned by KSI, so that might soon become a corporate entity in and of itself. But there's a real sense of occasion. It's a local football team. I get myself a pie. It's cold. Someone calls me a packy. I go home. All right? And it feels like that's what football is meant to be. So, yeah, there is definitely a glory hunting element. And do you know what? If you're Bangladeshi, by all means, go for it. But I would rather you support the Asian team. Support Iran. Support South Korea at the next World Cup. So, Barbon, thank you for sending in that voice note and giving me the opportunity to talk about Bangladesh's history with Argentina.
Hey, Eshaan, it's Riz. All right, tell me something that you're really proud of that you've done that you never really get to tell anyone. Yeah, go on.
Well, Bhaijan Riz, and I'm saying Bhaijan Riz because this is my cousin. Bhaijan is the Urdu Punjabi word for older brother, and I've always addressed him as Bhaijan Riz. Before I answer this question, Bhaijan Riz, I want to say, and I don't think I've ever had an opportunity to say this to you, and I want to be able to say this to the world and everyone listening to this podcast. Bhaijan Riz is, I think he's maybe 6 years older than me or 8 years older than me, something like that. No, actually, older than that. He's 10 years older than me. And he was one of the first people, I have a very core memory of him being one of the very first people I'd ever seen where I understood what confidence meant. Bhaijan Riz is one of the most confident human beings on the planet. There was not a thing that he would ever say that he was incapable of doing. whether it was bowling the fastest, whether it was dancing the best, whether it was making people laugh the most. And I remember as a child looking to him and going, oh, imagine being like that one day. That's like, even if it's to the point of ridicule, like within the family, there's always this sense of like, oh, Pajan Riz, of course he can do whatever he likes. And I hope he won't mind me sharing this, but to speak to his confidence, a few years ago, Pajan Riz fell really ill, quite dangerously ill. And it is testament to him and his confidence that not only did he overcome that illness, he's come back, much to some people's annoyance, even more confident than before. It's given him a level of confidence where you go, do you know what? I survived a really big illness and now I'm the most confident human being I've ever been in my life. And inexplicably, he looks great in his 50s after having gone through this. So, Pajan Riz, I just wanted to come out and say that to you, that I'm incredibly proud of you and have always admired you and your confidence. It's something I quietly hold quite dear to my heart. And people who know me in comedy will probably say that they think the same about me, that I'm quite a confident guy who feels like he's capable of doing anything. And generally I do. And I'm sure that you have a big part to play in the way I see myself there. In terms of your question, something that I'm proud of that I don't really get to talk about, this is a very good question. I mean, pride and taking pride in the things that I've done is not something I do very easily. Given that I've just talked a lot about confidence, you'd think that I'd be able to just whittle it out. And maybe you actually, Pajan Riz, would struggle to openly say something you're confident about. And I think this speaks to a bigger thing about confident people, people who are outwardly confident. I can't do a sweeping statement, but I think a lot of them, I think it's safe to say, when push comes to shove, really do find it quite difficult to talk about the things that they're proud of. Jude Bellingham very recently came out and said that he struggles a bit with his mental health and self-doubt and things like that. And that's Jude Bellingham, and it's important that, his whole thing is that he is confident. His whole celebration is he stands 2-footed, arms aloft and out to let the world know that he's arrived. So there is a correlation, I think, sometimes between people not being able to talk about themselves with pride while simultaneously being confident, but we can maybe talk about that another time. But things that I'm proud of that I never really get to talk about too much. I would say that I'm actually really proud of, how do I say this? Throughout my life, I guess there have been performances, not comedy. This is nothing to do with comedy. This is like when I used to dance. I used to be a Bollywood dance choreographer and directing plays and being a part of people's big moments at weddings, social gatherings. I'm proud of, I think, the impact that I have on people. I often joke about the fact that I'm usually a wedding guest for hire. I have been invited to so many weddings where I've only met the bride or groom 3 times, sometimes less. And the impact I have on them, they then ask me to come along to their special day. And of course, I throw myself in, have a bloody great time. And everyone remembers me and I make friends from that. And then they invite me to their weddings and it continues. I should really charge people for this, to be honest. There was a family friend's wedding in 2007, 2008, something like that I choreographed a load of dances for. And one of the things I made sure I did is, look, not everybody wants to dance. Okay, and at an Asian wedding, there are dance performances and you want the closest family and friends to perform. Now, I would say about 95% of people do not want to do it, right? They find it endlessly embarrassing. And a source of great pride for me is I find a way to see what people are comfortable with, what level of performance they're comfortable with, and incorporate that into a dance. So we did this one dance for a very famous song called Mujhse Shaadi Karogi. Mujhse Shaadi Karogi, Mujhse Shaadi Karogi, which basically translates to, will you marry me, right? And I played the role of the guy who would literally marry anybody. So all the girls had to do was just model. Like women, they love dressing up for these weddings and they want to look fantastic. And my job was to be the stupid flirt that couldn't get anywhere near them. And then they would then walk off with the guys. That was the idea. So all the guys had to do was walk on stage and walk off with a beautiful looking woman next to them. And every single person, there must have been about, in total, 16 people. So 8 pairs. Everyone got to do a bit of a performance. They got on stage. They got a cheer from the crowd because they're family, friends, got to see each other. And I was just the guy kind of the gluing it all together. And at the end, the punchline was that I just ran off with the bride. Hilarious. Everyone has a great time. That's one where I feel quite proud of the fact that I did that, because, everyone gets involved as much or as little as they like, but there isn't a single person there who did not appreciate their family cheering for them. We all love it to a certain extent. We all love when our mum or dad says, "I'm proud of you," or they go, "Woo, woo, 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 woo." I know there's that English sensibility. Like I remember during graduation, people were graduating, they were just getting applauded. Not my dad. Oh no. I'm walking past and he's giving it some way. He's like, "Go on, son. I'm proud of you." And you can see all these people be like, "Is that what you're meant to do?" Yes, that is what you're meant to do. My dad worked bloody hard to see me graduate. You should celebrate. But I think that the thing that I don't get to talk about is I would hope that when people think of me, a smile reaches their face, that they would have a positive story about their experience with me, that they'd have a funny story to share about the time I did something that was stupid or funny or just made them laugh. I think I don't take myself too seriously. And I think that reflects in all the things, all the performances I've done, all the dances I've done. Even when I danced, there was a real sense of occasion and trying to make people laugh. And this has got nothing to do with comedy. But yeah, all in all, I would say that the thing that I'm proudest of, or I'm proud of that I don't get to talk about, is the impact that I have on people. Because I think that reflects well on my family. And especially my late mum, My late mum, she would entertain people. It really instilled that sense of you make people feel good when they come to your house. You make them feel special when you go to theirs. And so when people, I guess, like me or enjoy my company, I really feel like, oh, I'm carrying on my mum's legacy in this way, So that would be the thing that I'd say that I'm proudest of. What about you? Why don't you tell me something that you're very proud of? Bajan Riz, but also anybody else listening. If there's anything in particular that you're proud of when you really think about it, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's it for today's Adda. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you want to get involved, you can send me a voice note by going to speakpipe.com/Eshaan Akbar. And beyond that, if you don't want to get involved but you're just enjoying the podcast anyway, I'd really appreciate you giving it a bit of a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share it with people and have your own Addas. I'd love for you to message a couple of your mates and you just say, "We're going to have an aimless hang." Even if you go to the pub, we'll have a couple of drinks, because that's effectively what going to the pub is, right? It's an Adda lubricated by lager. I wish you all a very good Adda, and I'll speak to you soon.